we travel to Germany, specifically to the World Book Fair in Frankfurt, where we meet Professor Eric Armstrong, who is announcing a new book in his collection that, once translated into every language, will change the world. He's already assembling a team for this ambitious task. One of the team members is Professor Helena Toxin, whose fascination with Armstrong's books compels her to leave her husband and 3 children for months to take on this role. Another recruit, Stelma, ends her relationship with her girlfriend just to spend the next 2 months working with the famous Armstrong. In France, we meet more team members, Alex, Catherine, and Sean, who have yet to be informed about the nature of the project, but have no complaints because the pay is enough to keep their questions to themselves for now. Upon arrival, all their electronic devices are confiscated for complete confidentiality, which irritates Javier, a methodical individual who prefers to keep recorded logs of his work. The next team member we meet is Dario, who dislikes confined spaces. A problem since they'll be working underground in what appears to be a vault. The facility is exceptionally luxurious, ensuring everyone's comfort while they work on a project they still know nothing about. Finally, Eric arrives and explains the task. They are all expert translators, and their job will be to translate a very important book over the next 2 months. For now, they'll receive only the first 20 pages. When Constantino, an expert in Greek, stands up to leave with his pages, a guard stops him, informing him that no part of the manuscript may leave the translation room. We then see a scene from 2 months in the future, where Eric visits someone in prison to deliver a translated copy of the manuscript. The cover hints at something very dark and sinister. Returning to the underground bunker, the team members are congratulated for completing the first 20 pages in record time, with Ingrid finishing in exactly 2 hours. During dinner, they can't help but discuss the contents of those pages. All of them are literary experts, but none has ever read anything like it. Even Constantino, with 40 years in the literary world, can't recall anything remotely similar. They believe this could be the greatest book ever if it continues like this. The following days pass intensely as each new set of pages draws the translators further into the story, making them almost addicted to the words they translate. Each time Eric brings the next pages, the team's excitement is palpable. However, when they ask about the author, Eric swiftly reprimands them, reminding them they are only there to translate, nothing more, and that their confidentiality agreements will lead to prison if they ask the wrong questions. Catherine, deeply drawn into the story, requests a private meeting with Armstrong. When he's distracted, she tries to open his briefcase to find the remaining pages of the manuscript. After several attempts, she manages to see the complete manuscript inside, with the title Dead Loose on the cover. That night, things take a darker turn as we see Catherine walking to the bottom of the pool, seemingly with no intention of resurfacing. Alex, passing by, jumps in to save her, but instead she insults him, calling him an idiot for interrupting her time of reflection. Alex thinks Catherine is losing her mind, but she explains that Rebecca, the protagonist of the book they're translating, drowned, and she just wants to feel the same. It's clear this book wields an incredibly powerful influence over people's minds, as shown by how Catherine and the other translators have become obsessed after reading only a few pages. We return briefly to the prison visiting room, where Eric is angrily demanding the person across the table to reveal the secret they discovered about the book. However, it's not yet clear who this imprisoned person is. After spending 3 weeks in the bunker, it's nearly Christmas. But the translators are still deep in work, unable to leave as they still have much to accomplish. Eric, who has chosen to spend the holiday alone in his room, receives a deeply disturbing message. Someone has published the first 10 pages of the book, breaching the complex's security and violating the strict ethics of the translation project. The message doesn't end there, as Eric finds himself blackmailed. 5 million euros in exchange for keeping further pages from being leaked. Constantino finds the situation amusing and mocks Eric, who has already invested millions in building the bunker only to have the manuscript stolen. A guard suddenly steps in and strikes him hard, silencing him. When Alex tries to help the old man, the guards draw their weapons, reminding everyone of the seriousness of the situation. This book was destined to generate hundreds of millions, and they won't let this threat ruin everything. Everyone who refuses to cooperate has their room searched thoroughly. In Helena's room, Guards find many handwritten pages. Although they're from a book she's been writing, she becomes the main suspect until Eric can confirm she hasn't used parts of Daedalus for her work. This leads her to burn her own pages that took her 8 years to write. Later, the translators start accusing each other, deciding the best course of action is for the one responsible for the leak to confess, or else they all risk going to prison. After some heated discussions, they point fingers at Javier, who's been wearing a cast on his arm since the first day. They find it strange since his minor fracture shouldn't take so long to heal. Thelma lunges at him, trying to remove the cast, suspecting he's hiding a device inside to access the internet and leak information. However, they find nothing under the cast. When they return to their rooms, they find them in complete disarray. Catherine confronts Alex in his room, revealing that she investigated everyone before the project started and found out that Alex had never translated professionally. She accuses him, and we then see Alex in an interrogation scene, where his false credentials are uncovered. He might be able to translate, but he's not who he says he is. Refusing to talk to officials, Alex says he will only confess his true intentions to Oscar Burke, the author of Daedalus. However, no one has ever seen Birch, not even Armstrong. Alex then admits to Catherine that he lied about his past to get hired by Eric because he's one of Brush's biggest fans. Meeting his idol has been his life's sole mission, and this desire led him to fake his background to be part of the project. Unfortunately, his deception means he will likely be blamed if anyone finds out. Catherine then confesses that she also attempted to steal the manuscript from the briefcase, but was stopped by Eric before she could. So they conclude someone else must be behind the leak. Meanwhile, Eric has dispatched his assistant, Rose, and a team to investigate the translators' homes to uncover their secrets. Back in the bunker, Eric faces immense pressure as the leaked 10 pages were downloaded millions of times within minutes, adding to the mounting stress. Despite this, he still has no leads on who's blackmailing him. Furious, Eric gathers the team and lines them up, forcing them to strip down, standing one next to the other. Just seconds before the deadline expires, even though it's clear they don't have any devices, a new message from the hacker arrives, revealing that the next 100 pages have been published. Now the ransom demand has risen to 20 million euros. A couple of hours later, the water, heating, and lights are shut off, leaving everyone to suffer in the cold until someone confesses. It's then that Helena breaks down. The destruction of her manuscript pages has pushed her to the edge. We return to the prison visiting room, where we finally see the face of the person sitting across from Eric. It's Alex, who appears quite pleased with the chaos he has unleashed. Suddenly, there's a twist. A guard enters the room and takes Eric away, revealing that Eric is actually the prisoner, and Alex is the visitor. Once again, we go back in time to a conversation Eric had with George Fontaine, the real author of Dead Luz. Oscar Brack is merely a publicity alias they created. George informs Eric that this will be his final book before he retires forever. Eric, unhappy with this news, reluctantly accepts, knowing how profitable and popular George's books have been. Back in the prison, Alex confesses to Eric that he didn't steal the manuscript from inside the bunker. Instead, he had been following Eric for months, memorizing his entire routine until he saw the perfect chance. Moreover, he wasn't alone in his plan. Javier, Ingrid, Thelma, and Chen were his accomplices from the beginning. Together, they managed to steal and photocopy the manuscript days before the project officially began, returning it undetected. They then meticulously planned every move, including how they would act inside the bunker and pretend not to know each other until they received their payment. But let's not get too far ahead. We return to the bunker. In the dark corridors, after hours of searching, Dario stumbles upon Helena's lifeless body. She decided to end her life. The next morning, Eric is resolute. No one is leaving. He orders his men to place Helena's body in the refrigerator, making it clear that no one will go until the culprit is found. Just as he's about to leave, another message arrives. Now 200 pages of the book have been leaked, and the ransom demand has skyrocketed to 80 million euros. Only the final chapters remain unpublished. Eric, consumed by rage, threatens to shoot everyone unless they confess. At last, Alex admits to being the hacker and offers a deal. If Eric brings Oscar Brecht to him, he'll stop the leaks. Suddenly, Catherine speaks in Mandarin, urging everyone to attack Eric at once. What they didn't expect was that Eric understood Mandarin and fired his weapon. Finally, Eric relents and pays the 80 million to prevent the final chapters from being published, but not before shooting Alex as revenge. Fortunately, Alex had anticipated this, placing a book from the shelf under his jacket, which stopped the bullet. With the guards now siding with the translators, everyone was escorted out of the bunker, and Catherine received medical attention just in time. In a final scene, we discover that Alex and George's lives had crossed paths years earlier. Alex, a talented young writer, grew up working for George, and it was actually Alex who wrote Dead Lose. George stole the manuscript, publishing it as his own, and disappearing with all the success that rightfully belonged to Alex. When Alex learned that Eric would be selling his book, he set his plan of revenge in motion. Money didn't matter. He only wanted the recognition he deserved and the chance to confront George. This is why George had said he'd retire. He'd never written the book. He was a fraud, with Eric complicit in the deception. Now the 80 million is in Eric's personal account, and he will surely be blamed not only for embezzling the funds, but also for Helena's death and everything else. Alex offers Eric a final deal. If he reveals George's whereabouts, Alex will make all this disappear. But it's too late. Eric confesses that when George had told him about his retirement, he'd flown into a rage and killed him. In the end, Eric is left as the sole culprit, bound to spend the rest of his life in prison, undone by his own ambition, while Alex can finally move on, knowing that George got what he deserved.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.